2, 1, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, what do you think you are, some kind of Hotep Jesus?
Ooh,
and
that's
I was
good.
Just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for the first episode of KeMedicine with Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus.
And Dr. Enqi. Yes, sir. We are here. We done made it. One's in the chat if you can see us and hear us. One's in the chat if you can see and hear us. Let's do a tech test real fast. Okay, good. All right, Kick. We locked in on Kick. I got my host right here, Dr. Enqi, in the house. Dr. Enqi, what's happening, man? A lot, right?
Man, like it's a wild time. It's a beautiful time to be alive. It's a beautiful time to be alive. It's a when we look back at history, I don't think that people notice the cycles. Like there are times in history where it's relatively quiet. And this doesn't matter whether you look at global history or even like a specific country or a specific group of people or whatever. There's times when it's quiet. Like people are just living, whether they're living in poverty and shame or whether they're doing it big. It's just nothing of note, like nothing of global, like it's just they're going along. And then there's times where stuff is happening and it's just like, it's a crazy 50 years or 100 years or, it's just an epic time period. Even when we look at the pharaohs, like there's a long list of pharaohs. Nobody knows all of those pharaohs' names, like, because, they just kind of came and went, but some of them was so legendary, you know what I'm saying, that, people are still making movies and telling stories about them. So I think we live in one of those time periods where it's just a legendary time period. Like it's just, and legendary isn't always good. Great doesn't mean good. Sometimes great just means, extremely large or impactful. So it can be extremely damaging or but we definitely are in one of those cycles where it's just crazy.
They definitely gonna be talking about this time period. They're gonna be like, yo, what the hell?
Man.
What's going on?
Let me ask you this. Because I know this is your bag and you probably already discussed. See, so obviously y'all know the name of the show is KeMedicine, and if y'all don't know, tonight is the intro show, so there's that. And so you can obviously read right into the name and be like, oh, okay, so we'll all be picking Inky's brain and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but not exactly, because, I have opportunity to pick HJ's brain as well. So I know you probably already did, knowing you, like 17 shows on 12 different platforms on this. But the last week or so, at least once a day, I've been getting somebody to ask me about the Trump tariffs, right? And so I'm gonna just give you my little quick 5-minute spiel, 2-minute spiel on it, and then you just, like correct me and adjust me and give me the, so the way I see it, right? The way I see it is it's long overdue, right? The way I see it is long overdue. Like, a lot of people don't know global economics or what's going on in these other places. A lot of people don't know they've been running America like the block, like the corner. You know, people come here, make their money and tuck it away. So you got a lot of countries where they make millions, maybe even billions of dollars selling stuff here in America, but they don't allow us to sell our stuff in their country. And so the way I'm looking at it is like Trump just saying, look, if you want to make your money here, you got to be able to let us make our money over there. If you're going to tax the hell out of us over there, we're going to tax the hell out of you over here, right? I don't really see anything crazy going on. So I'm just like, I don't understand what the uproar is about, you know, so.
Yeah. There's nothing to correct with what you said. It's just some things we got to add on. This is bigger than economics, okay? Economics plays a role, but this is about territorial control of the earth. China has a foothold in places like Africa, controlling natural resources like cobalt that we know that are coming out of Congo, other nations. We have Lesotho. Lesotho is like, you know, one of the largest garment manufacturers in the world. China is controlling a lot of that type of trade. So, and then obviously, you know, military comes into play here. When economics, we're talking about economics, America's at a trade deficit. America is in great financial debt. So a lot of this is about creating a trade surplus, you know, improving the books of the country. And that's really what it comes down to economically, is improving the books of the country, create a trade surplus, and, you know, make America great again, like he says. I think some of the moves Trump has made has been, you know, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they're not his decisions. Like, this is not, you know, this is straight out of the playbook of two cats. I can't remember the other names, but one of them is the U.S. Treasury Secretary, Bessent. And, you know, the plays that were laid out here was in the Hudson Bay Capital report that was published in November 2024 last year. And it details everything that we're saying now. So last week when Trump took the tariffs off of like 50 plus nations or whatever it was, everybody's like, oh, he caved. But if you looked at the report from November 2024, it was never about those other nations. It was about China, and it was about asking those nations, whose side are you on? You on my side or you on China's side? Because a lot of y'all are working with China. For example, China was sidestepping tariffs by, you know, let's say completing the manufacturing of a component about 90%. Then the last 10% may go to a foreign nation. They complete the last 10%, and then it gets shipped to the United States. And that way, China's not paying tariffs on their goods. So some of it was talking to those nations and saying, yo, are you helping China sidestep our tariffs? And where do you stand? You know, so we've got Japan come to the table. India has come to the table. Vietnam has come to the table. I think South Korea is coming to the table. And everybody's starting to, you know, figure out, you know, whose side are you going to be on. And right now what we're seeing is a dividing line in the world. New borders are going to be digital. One of them happens to be cryptocurrency via the stable coin. So we're having new borders drawn that are economic, territorial, and also digital.
Via the stable coin. What is that?
Stablecoin is basically the cryptocurrency version of a currency. It's programmable money, so it could come with smart contracts.
Oh, so it's not out yet. It's not.
It's out. Oh, it's out. No, this thing is here. It's been here for a while. I mean, some of us use it for trading, you know.
So is it different than Bitcoin? Is it the same?
Yeah, it's different from Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is going to be a limited supply. Stable coins can increase, decrease supply. Stable coins are going to be pegged to the currency. So it's if you buy USDT, USDC, it's the value of that currency, which is the dollar. So it's just a digital version of the dollar.
It's a digital, it's a way to translate cash to digital and make that easier so that it's a real thing now.
That's correct. That's correct.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Yeah, that had to happen at some point. Somebody had to make it real. It's been real. People been using Bitcoin and blah, 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 making $1 zillion off it, losing $1 zillion on it, like all of the different coins. But, the difficulty in translating cash back to digital and that's going to be big. The world our children.
The funny thing is, you ain't going to have a choice in the matter.
Well, that's
the way they're doing it now is when you start sending your transactions, they're going to automatically convert it to digital currency during the transaction. I disclosed that today. But yeah, there are many other implications. I can talk about the subject matter. There is many problems.
I'm sure. No. I was about to say, I'm sure many problems will arise, but I don't necessarily see a problem. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. So
that is true.
The Bitcoins were, I keep saying Bitcoins. What's the word for all? Crypto. Cryptocurrency was coming. Cryptocurrency is getting bigger and bigger. It's encroaching, more on traditional currencies. And so there was going to be a nexus,
According to the Bank of International Settlements, they said cryptocurrency has reached critical mass.
Right, there you go. I was just about to say the iceberg and the Titanic have to, that has to happen at some point. So, that I think with all the possibilities on the table, I don't think that's the worst thing that could happen. You know what I'm saying? Especially since we kind of use computers to do a lot of transactions anyway. I think this, our money's converted to digital, whether we, Yeah,
it's already digital, right?
Yeah.
They're just changing the technology and infrastructure.
Yeah, they're just opening up the interface to crypto universe now, but it's pretty much already been, if we're shopping on Amazon. COVID probably did more to change the currency to digital than, people are doing whole house shopping on Amazon, whole food connected to Amazon. It's the world our children will get is vastly different from the ones we were born into.
That's facts. Somebody in the chat, I know we're going to, talk a couple of things, but I wanted to put this on your desk. RFK going after food dye today. I know we probably want to touch on that a little bit.
Oh, man, I had such a debate with somebody in the chat the other day about RFK. They wound up cussing me out in the chat, cussing out my children, going crazy, calling my kids the B word, the P word. It was wild, bro. It was wild.
Wow, what was their stance?
They were just trying to say, RFK is a quack. He's misleading the public about autism and blah, 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 blah. The whole...
Oh, wow. They lost in the sauce.
Right. And I'm like, first of all, I wrote a book on autism, you know what I'm saying? Discussing all of the nuances of autism. So, I'm not the most well-versed on autism, but, I might know a thing or two about a thing or two, you know what I'm saying? And it's not necessarily just...
What's the name of the book?
Autism.
There it is.
You know what I'm saying? But my sister has 2 autistic children. You know what I'm saying? So it's not something that I'm just discussing. I'm not just discussing it. You know what I'm saying? But my whole thing was a lot of what RFK, I've been supporting RFK before he was Team Trump. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of what he's saying, I even co-sign the things that RFK is saying that I disagree with. And the reason why I co-sign the things that I disagree, which probably sounds crazy, like how are you co-signing things that you disagree with? Because people don't understand this is something that I think is important to happen, right? Because of the Trump the Trump disease, what's the name of that? The Trump, I know you know the name of it.
TDS. Trump derangement syndrome.
Trump derangement syndrome. Bam, is one took my face. Because of Trump derangement syndrome, combined with the fact that RFK got he got that squeaky voice, he got that. So he can't really articulate himself. And people already hate Trump. They got Trump. So when you combine those two things together, it's open season on RFK. Period. It's just open season. Like people just feel like we can violate him. And I'm saying that's a beautiful thing to have happen. Not for him, but for us as a people, as a country, as a nation. That is a beautiful thing, because before RFK got into this seat, the seat that he's sitting in was more respected than the president. There was no criticism. There was no pushback. If something came from the head of health, I mean, it was like God himself. Like this person was more revered than the Pope. If the Pope say something, you got a million people talking about, oh yeah, well, the Pope kidnapped kids, and they go into Illuminati conspiracy, woo, woo, woo. President say something, people going back and forth. The head of the CDC or the head of the National Health Department, if they say it, it's like, no, this is the Lord, like lightning is, so it was just an unchallengeable, it was untenable. It was blasphemous to even think that you could question something coming from this seat. And so now, since he can't even say, I got to go to the bathroom without folks saying, I don't believe you. Prove it. Like, I'm saying this is amazing. This is beautiful because
now people are finally starting to scrutinize Department of Health.
And this has to continue and will continue once he's out of the seat. Because now a new precedent has been set. Now it's challenge everything coming from the health department. Great. Couldn't wait for this. This is beautiful. People don't even really understand when they're being used by forces bigger than, like, this is bigger than this. Oh, this is beautiful. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what we're doing now. We just challenging anything. Like, we challenging the studies now. If he reads the study that we challenging, all right, cool. This is great. Challenge the seat, challenge the study. Because at some point, I mean, he'll retire and, whatever, somebody. So I'm thinking this is a great climate. You know what I'm saying? But I got into this debate about the autism thing because, he's saying that autism is at an all-time high, and he has some data now. Like, sitting in that seat, if nothing else, gives him access to a lot of information that, maybe even John Q. Public wouldn't have had access to. And so now he's got some data behind what he was saying before, because I think that, the vax movement is a polarizing movement. So you have, a lot of people that's pro-vax, and you have a lot of people that's anti-vax, and the people are really passionate. They want to fight, kill, scratch each other eyeballs out and all that. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not an anti-vax or pro-vax person. I'm pro-informed decision. That's where I'm at. I'm pro-informed decision. I'm me. Right? I made it this far. I'm me, and I was vaccinated. Right? I'm not one of those people that, like, well, I never got vaccinated. I got vaccinated. So, you know, I'm not completely anti-vaccine, but, you know, it's like, you know, some of the other, you know. So I think with him being a part of the anti-vax movement at a point, then maybe he walked some of it back. A lot of people are just still like anti whatever he has to say because of the vax stuff and then the COVID and then Trump derangement syndrome. And so they're not really giving anything else he has to say a chance, you know. And when he started talking about autism, and he was just kind of saying things that I was saying, and you know, like already before, you know, he was even addressing autism. I was already addressing autism, saying these like autism needs attention. Full stop, period. Like we can just stop right there and everybody agrees. Hey, you in the back over there. Yeah, you two over there in the back. Do you agree that we need to put more attention on autism? Okay. If not, why? Okay, maybe you don't know the numbers. Maybe you don't know that it went from, you know, 1 in X many thousands to 1 in X amount of hundreds to, you know, now in California is like 1 in 20, 1 in 12, you know, boys. Like it's crazy. And so
that's a crazy stat.
Right. That, you know what I'm saying? Like that's insane. Like, you know, and so to justify, you know, the discrepancy, you know, folks are saying, you know, like folks on that side are saying, well, we have better ways of diagnosing, better technology, blah, blah, blah. And so he's like, wait a minute, no. You're not going to get off the hook like that. You don't get to get off the hook like that. Like when the brother tapped into the show earlier, he was like, well, you know, Kanye's high right now. Like, whoa. He might be high right now, but he wasn't high when he was 11, when he was, you know, you don't get to get off the 25%, right, of these children that have autism are on the severe end of autism. And so for the people that don't know, right, autism is a spectrum, right? You have highly functioning people with autism, which could include yourself at home. You could be autistic and not even know it because, you know, it could just be certain little quirks you have. You know what I'm saying? Like you may not like being in crowds, and you may not even know why you don't like being in crowds. You just don't like being in crowds. And, you know, otherwise everything else, you kind of Gucci, like everything is, so you don't even really notice. You got a little, you know, a little season of, you know, you might have a little, but then you have all the way on the other side of the spectrum, people that are, you know, and then we seen Rain Man, you know, with Tom Cruise, the Rain Man movie. So I think people have that in their mind. They're like, oh, we know what autism is. It's like geniuses. That's, you know, like, that's not what severe autism looks like. What severe autism looks like is a 10-year-old child that can't speak. They don't have words. They don't know their ABCs, or they just make sounds. A 10-year-old child that's not potty trained. They can't use the toilet. They can't do a number 1 or number 2 by themselves. And they can't stop doing it on themselves. Like that's what severe autism looks like. And so it's important to know that caveat, because that's not something that you can miss. You can't miss that on a test. You can't say, well, we got better diagnostic equipment now, so yeah, we probably just missed 1 or 2 here and there, but, you know, because we got the equipment, like, ho. We don't need equipment to see that there are children that are 10, you know, these children are supposed to be in the 5th grade. What do you mean they can't talk or use the bathroom by themselves? Like, there's no way to miss that. You don't even need to be a doctor. You don't even need to have an education. You could be like, you know, like anybody, you know what I'm saying? So he just saying, like, just, you know, RFK was just saying, like, on its face to John Q. Public, some of these things may fly, but anybody that knows even a little bit about this knows that this is not correct.
Okay,
something
we're gonna come back to the RFK point. I want to start off with the story of your daughter that you told me earlier, the tragic incident that happened with her, and how that led you on your journey. Because this is volume 1 of KeMedicine here, and I want to make sure we lay down that groundwork. So go ahead and tell us that story like you told it to me earlier.
Wow, that's probably not possible, but I can. But I can tell, I can tell you guys the story, the Dr. Enqi story, so people familiar with me, they've heard this 1,000 times, but it's my inception. It's my coming out of the closet. It's my creation, I always been, I guess when I was little, I was into like magic, stuff like that, from there, it's only so many card tricks you can try if you're bad at magic. I wasn't good at magic. I liked it, but I wasn't good at it. So, that kind of segued me over to like mixing baking soda with peroxide and bleach and ammonia and, trying to do some experiments at the house and, just messing around, just getting into. And so I really realized, okay, it's not so much the magic. I like the mystery. I like science. I like the figuring out the mystery, and so early on, just fell in love with science and personalized science, like science that made sense, not the way it's taught in school, because that wasn't fun. I was asleep with everybody else. But at home, I would watch 3-2-1 Contact and read, and do my own thing. That stuck with me. So, I was always into the health, but not in like a sharing kind of way, like just going for self kind of, this is all about me. This is my nerdy private, And so fast forward, I'm at work one day selling phones at Verizon in Bay Plaza. I don't even know if Bay Plaza or the Verizon store in Bay Plaza still exists, but I was up there selling phones. And somewhere around, I want to say like 7-ish, something like that, maybe 8-ish, something like that, maybe 7, 8 o'clock. I get the phone call that my daughter was ran over by a car, right? This is not something that you can prepare for, being from the Bronx, seeing all the things I saw, that just was something I wasn't prepared for. So, I walk off the job, go to the hospital, and get to the hospital, and the doctor's like, my daughter's name is Amber, her mother's Crystal. Crystal's whole family is there. And they're all like crying and doing the consoling each other kind of thing. My family is out of state, all around the place, so none of my people's is there. It's just her people, and they all kind of consoling each other and like reconciling whatever the doctor told them. I don't know. I'm getting to the spot late. So when I get there, I'm kind of going crazy on her. Like, what was she even doing in the street by herself? Like, why was my kids where was you at? So I'm arguing with Crystal, like, where was you at? Like, Black folks, look, don't judge me. I'm working on me every day, trying to get me together. But this is what's going on in the middle of the panic and the craziness, right? So I'm like, where's the doctor? How soon can we get out of here? What's the deal? And so the doctor comes, pulls me to the side. I already know this is going downhill quickly. I haven't seen her yet. Doctor come talk to me. He want to pull me to the side before letting me see her. And he's like, listen, with the injuries that she sustained, her neck and spine are broken in 3 places. Her pelvis and hips are crushed. Her left leg's crushed. Her left foot's crushed. She's not going to make it through the night.
And how old was she?
She was about 4 years old, 5 years old.
Damn.
Yeah. She was about 4 or 5 years old. And so they're like, she's not gonna make it through the night. This is so, we just want to, you know, be here for you any kind of way possible. I just cut him off immediately, like, bro, let me just stop you right there. Pack my daughter up, put her back in the ambulance. We're going to a different hospital. So he's like, no, that's not possible. Why would you want to go to a different hospital? We told you, I just gave you the prognosis. Like, I'm like, I heard what you said, but yeah, we're going to a different hospital. We're not, and he's like, well, she's not going to survive a ride to another hospital. Her condition, she's in too bad of a condition. She's not even going to survive the ride to another hospital. So, I'm beefing with him, telling him to do what I say. Crystal is going along with him. And now I'm screaming at her, like, why are you listening to him? He said Amber's dying here tonight. So if we stay here, she's going to die tonight because they're not even doing nothing. When he come out and tell us this is a reflection of what they got, what their program is. So they done already went on to the people, whoever they think they can save. She's over here. She's wherever she at. Get my baby from being put to the side. Is she still alive right now? Okay, good. Put her on an ambulance. We need to get her somewhere where they ready to scrap because I'm ready to fight. Like, yeah, so eventually, I'm an unstoppable force in the hospital. And so, yeah, they put her on an ambulance and, get us up out of there. And we was going to one hospital. And before we even got there, redirected them to Columbia Hospital, which at the time, they was like the #1 in pediatric trauma in the Northeast. The guy named Dr. Lee, crazy Chinese doctor, as we talk about the Chinese folks.
China.
Right. And if it wasn't for Dr. Lee, I feel like I owe Dr. Lee. You know what I'm saying? Because I definitely quarterback some stuff, but if his mind wasn't open, and I think it's a cultural thing. If his mind wasn't open to the stuff I was talking about and doing, he probably would have had me removed. Like if it had been a white guy in there, he probably would have had me removed and banned. Like I wouldn't have been able to have run through there like how I was in there moving around. But so we wind up making it to the hospital, and when we got there, they was able to stabilize her and say, if she makes it through the night, she'll probably live, but she'll definitely never walk again. She'll probably live, but she'll definitely never walk again. And so I'm excited about that. I was like, okay, we lit. Like now I'm looking at her mama like, I told you, you listen to me. Don't you listen, I got this. We cooking now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the doctors, I think they was a little confused because they like, we just told you that your daughter might die tonight, but if she makes it to the morning, she'll never ever walk again. We've never seen anybody excited about that. I'm like, well, see, here's the thing. At the last hospital, I just had to fight to get her here. And the last hospital we was at, yeah, they said she was definitely going to die. And so, yeah, you're telling me chance is like 60% chance that she might make it through the night. And if she does, we in the clear, she'll never walk again. But I'm like, yeah, this was a 360-degree turnaround from, and so, that the accident happened August 28th. By February or March, I had her like back in school, with her friends. She had a wicked limp, but she was, back in school within, a matter of months,
So what was it when you said you was talking to him, you was coaching them through? What was it that you were saying to the doctor? How were you quarterbacking? What methods were you implementing?
Okay, so a lot of love and a lot of prayer. Let me say that #1. Love and prayer, #1. That was like off rip, first off the, so she's in the ICU. right? And in the ICU, I'm limited to what, you know, what I could do and whatnot. So the first day or two, we're in the ICU, I'm watching children that have better prognosis than my daughter pass away in the ICU. So that's tough to watch, you know, and I'm like empathic. So I'm like, it's hurting. Like it was rough on my soul to watch babies die in the ICU. Like that was rough for me. You know what I'm saying? Especially I gotta like, you know what I'm saying? And then you kind of like develop 5-minute friendships with people because, you know, you might look across the room, you see a dad, you know, y'all got that dad. And then his baby might pass away. And it's just like, you know, that it was rough to be in there. Right. But I dipped home, right? I dipped home and I went in my kitchen and I started mixing up some stuff in my kitchen. Now, mind you, I don't have any certifications or anything, you know. I'm a cell phone salesman from Verizon and Bay Plaza. You know what I'm saying? I just walked off my job. But I have 10 years of studying plants and, you know, I have a mind full of, you know, Kemetic mythology. And so the doctors are saying that her spine is broken, her neck is broken, she'll never walk again. But in my mind, I got a lot of this Jed pillar. And, you know, I laugh about it now because it was me against the world, literally, you know. The lawyer told Crystal that because I guess the doctors were complaining. So when the doctors were coming to like get blood and stuff like that, I wasn't really letting them get blood all the time. Like I would let them take blood maybe every few hours, but they were like coming to get blood a lot. And I was like, whoa, bro, nah, you just got blood at 12 o'clock. It's 1:30. Trust me, none of the values have changed. You're killing me right now. You know what I'm saying? So I guess the doctors were complaining to Dr. Lee, and Dr. Lee, I guess maybe he communicated that to the lawyer, and the lawyer's telling Crystal, if I don't let the doctors do whatever they want to do, we're not going to be able to get money. So now me and her is arguing in the place. I'm like, yo, I don't care if we never get a dime for this. I just want my baby back and woo woo. And I'm trying to argue with her as now I'm trying to argue with the people in there. Like, if you keep taking blood, it's not possible for her bones to heal. Like, it's, you know, because your body got to process, you know what I'm saying? Your blood got to be adequate in order for bone to start building. Like, you can't put the cart before the horse. The blood is the most important thing. So the body is designed to sacrifice everything for blood, period. So it's not until the blood is straight, ma'at, balanced, that other stuff, tissues and bones can start to heal and build and whatever the case may be. So I was, extra guarded of that. And I didn't know they had cameras in the ICU. I didn't know they had cameras in the ICU. So I didn't think anybody saw me, dropping my little drops in Amber's mouth. The reason why Mama Atomics is a liquid, because, she's hooked up to machines and all that. So in my mind, the only way I could give her whatever I want to give her is sublingual. So I made a little liquid, a little green liquid, swage, my mind is, full of mythology mixed with, whatever I know about the body. And so this may have went on for a few days, 4 or 5 days or so, maybe. And eventually, Dr. Lee invites me down to his office. And I'm thinking, okay, it's my turn. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had a few blow-ups in the ICU, and the security escorted her mama out. because they like, yo, you've been here the whole time, so we know you. So it's not like we choosing your side. It's just she hasn't been here, so we just gonna remove the other party. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking in my mind, okay, well maybe it's time I get in trouble because she didn't got in trouble a few times. So I go down to the office, and it's a couple doctors on this side, and they got the little clipboards. It's a couple more doctors on this side. Dr. Lee sitting behind the desk. And I come in there and he's like, why aren't you letting our doctors, why aren't you letting our doctors and our staff do what they need to do, to try to heal your daughter? And I'm like, well, I'm not really stopping them. The only thing I'm stopping is, so many taking blood like every, what are you taking blood like every hour? Like, how much blood you need? Like, it just doesn't even make any sense. Plus, I know you only need a little pinch to figure out, you put that thing in the spin machine and, like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? So, he chuckled a little bit and he was like, okay, well, why are you stopping them from doing that though? Do you think that's hindering her recovery? I said, of course it is, because, the blood has to build in order, to start translating the minerals and stuff like that to the bone. And, he was like, well, what's up with the IV? Because I made them switch, there's different types of IV bags, so I was like, I need the IV heavy mineral, I wanted the one with the heavy mineral and sugar, and so he's asking me, he's like, yo, so, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I sell phones at the Verizon store. And he's like, no. Like, where did you go to medical school? Like, I'm like, medical school? I ain't go to medical school. I work at the cell phone store. Like, he's like, well, what is that stuff that you've been dripping? We see you on the camera. I was like, camera? I got cameras in there? He was like, yeah, we got you on camera. You dripping something in her mouth. You're like, what is that? What is that stuff? I was like, well, it's something I made at the house, It's got some plant-based, And he was like, oh, herbs? You know about herbs? I was like, yeah, it's got some herbs in there to, speed recovery and help the vertebrae. And, he was like, well, I'm gonna be honest with you. We're playing along with this because, whatever it is that you got going on, she seems to be healing, at an exceptionally fast rate. And so, we don't, we would have probably kicked you out of here a while ago, but, we're kind of interested in seeing how this goes because we haven't seen anything like this before. We haven't seen any parents like you before. And then whatever that stuff is that you're dripping, you're dripping in her mouth, like we think that's working, so we don't want to stop you from, the liability is on you. If it goes wrong, we got you on camera. But so she wound up being transferred out of ICU, and it worked out. It worked out, and from there, because it was such a big thing, like because me and Crystal had went at it. And then I guess, girls being girl or women being women, I guess, I'm in the hospital. I'm in the ICU. I'm not in communication with nobody. I'm in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm locked into a mantra type constant prayer. Like I'm super prayed up. So I'm not talking to nobody but God at this time. So I don't know what's going on. Well, once she gets moved out of ICU, I could kind of like, man, I wonder if I'm fired. I walked off my job and haven't looked back. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably certain I'm fired. You know what I'm saying? We'll figure this out. But the whole family, and everybody, even my friends, they was against me. They're like, yo, you're going to mess that girl up. What are you doing? You're not a doctor. Why is you stopping the doctors? At least you could let the lawyers try to get y'all a few dollars and, it just there was, and the reason I can laugh at it now is because I would have to agree if I was one of them back then, because there was nothing to indicate that I knew what I was talking about. I couldn't even articulate myself in a way that would make anyone like, so now when I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, they was, even Crystal, like she was right to try to, like, you don't know what you're doing, bro. What are you doing? You sell phones. What are you doing? You can't heal spine. The people trained to heal spine said you can't heal this. Like, what are you doing here? You know what I'm saying? But, I think in hindsight, not even thinking hindsight, just the way I view life, I know everything was by design. So even now with what we're doing with our books and programs and what it is that we're trying to, how we're trying to, educate folks and raise awareness, it started there. Not just me, but my awareness of the whole hospital situation. So for people that don't know.
Now we got to get into the other story where the dude came to you about his mama and he's a politician.
Oh, okay. We can get into Rob. Yeah, I know exactly.
We got to talk about the Rob story too.
Yeah. So before we get to Rob though, so because this is such a big deal, when it goes my way, and Amber, we get Amber out the hospital, 5-6 months later, she's back moving around again. Everything that they said would never be able to happen, people are starting to gravitate to me and ask me stuff. Hey, do you know anything about this? I got some stuff on my toe here. You know how I can help, like my auntie, she got diabetes and, what do you know about, can you help out with that? And, so I never I didn't set out in my mind to be a herb guy or to be in health, or like, this was the furthest thing from my plans. This just happened from that scenario, and then word spreading about that scenario, people started to gravitate and ask me, and I would just offer advice like, oh, well, why don't you try these herbs, or, and then people start slowly but surely, some folks being lazy, some folks being uneducated in the space. They're like, oh, can I just give you the money and then you go get the herbs from me? And then, so that's eventually that grows into me starting to have extra herbs around, like, all right, well, and so now to go to the Rob story, Rob's story is kind of interesting because Rob wound up changing his whole life around, right? So one day there's an event on 125th National Black Theater, right? Shout out to Sa, right? He ain't let me talk at the event though. But, shout out to King Simon. Forget about Sa. Shout out to King Simon, because King Simon was like handling the vendors and all that. So, you take care of Simon and you can set up your little table or whatever. So I'm on the side with my table set up, and this guy comes in, real cocky. He like, yo, you ain't. So when he come like that, I don't even know what's happening right now. I'm like, what's good? You're like, nah, I know who you is, man. Listen, man, I've been watching all y'all guys on the videos and all that, man. And, you just seem like you the least full of, you seem like you the least full of shit out of everybody I see. Y'all running these games on the internet. And, the only reason I'm here is because the hospitals have given up on my mom, they saying basically she need to go to hospice, and, she's got end stage sarcoidosis, and, so what can you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, money's not an object. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do I need to buy? Y'all all over here selling them herbs. What you got? The Sabi herbs? Like, what you what do I need to buy right now to heal my mom? So I was like, okay, well, first, I'm glad you came to me, because the things you're saying right now, somebody would probably take advantage. Like you saying all of the right things to get scammed. Like money's not an object. What do I need to buy? Like, bro, that's what they're waiting to hear. You came to the right person, because that's not how I operate. You know what I'm saying? I don't have anything for you right now but information. He was like, nah, but my mom's dying. I was like, yeah, but you still got to get some of these books. I'm gonna need you to study. We're gonna study together. And if she don't got that much time, that means you ain't got that much time to study. So I'm gonna need you to get on these books immediately. So, he got a couple books from me, and me and him just started studying. He got into the books and started hitting me up back and forth and boom. So, my process was pretty much just learning about what it is, how it starts, how it attacks the body. And, pretty much from there, you'll start to see some things on your own. You know what I'm saying?
And what was she suffering from?
Sarcoidosis.
Okay.
It's like an autoimmune condition. And so, HLA system, human leukocyte antigen system, usually is at the root of most autoimmune diseases. And, they gave her a matter of months, and Rob propositioned me. He was like, yo, I'm telling you, if this works, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to just dedicate my whole life to you. I'm going to be your number one disciple. I'm going to be out there teaching people whatever you teach me. I'm going to be out there teaching other people. And this is what we doing. Like, I'm telling you, I'm going to be like your Muhammad or Jesus or Malcolm X for Elijah Muhammad and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, people say all kinds of stuff, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, fast forward. The doctors eventually said his mom's was miraculously healed. Like it went into remission, like out of nowhere. After maybe, I don't know, maybe 9 months to a year. And, this is in remission. It's remarkable. And I told him, I said, roll with that. Don't go in there and try to correct him and be like, oh no, I got these herbs from this guy named, whatever they say, it's amazing. It's good. We followed your advice, doc. Like yeah. So I was pretty much expecting that to kind of be it though. You know what I'm saying? Because that wasn't the first time, you know what I'm saying? Not to sound cocky, but that, so I was pretty much expecting that to be it, but he was a man of his word. Like he went crazy. He was speaking in old folks' homes, elementary schools, the projects, the neighborhood. He went and bought a store, turned it into a juice bar, and like he went crazy with it. You know what I'm saying? And turned his whole life into exactly what he said. He don't play about that. And so he wind up, being such a pillar of the community. They wind up electing him to city council, and then he got a resolution passed for the city to adopt like some of our health, like the Dr. Enqi health program, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, we wind up having like the mayor cut a ribbon and invite me up there for a ceremony and a whole big thing. His mom's is still alive. This is a lot of, it's probably like 10 years ago, but his mom's still alive and, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's in the politics, but the crazy thing for me is that he's in politics and got elected off the health platform. Like right. That's his thing. Right. Is he's still promoting it,
So I want to lay a little bit of groundwork and expectations for the people. A couple of things we're going to talk about in this next hour here. We're going to just give you guys rough overviews to let you know you're dealing with the real deal. We're going to talk diabetes. We're going to talk sickle cell. Okay. And high blood pressure. Okay. We might, in high blood pressure, we probably talk about heart disease. Those things are related, of course. So we're going to talk about those 3 things. YouTube, this is the last time you're going to see this show. Okay, I'm putting y'all on fucking notice right now. If you don't come to Kick, all you getting is clips. If you don't come to Kick, all you getting is clips. Kick.com/The Griff Report. You getting the first episode. You know what I'm saying? This is a free sample. Y'all want that real? You're going to have to come over to Kick. All right? Kick.com/The Griff Report. We not airing this on YouTube. Josh over here said cut they stream. Josh on Kick said cut the stream. The Kick chat want me to cut the stream on y'all. Okay? So if y'all want KeMedicine, if y'all want Dr. Enqi and Hotep Jesus, I should cut the stream on them, shouldn't I?
I mean, they got to come to Kick.
You know what I'm saying? So, y'all be careful over there, YouTube. 2 people done said cut the stream over on YouTube. So if y'all want that real for real, but we're gonna give y'all this free sample. Let's talk about which one you want to tackle first: diabetes, high blood pressure, or sickle cell. Which one should we talk about first?
Well, I guess we can go with diabetes. That's a large part of the movement.
Right.
That's a large part of the movement. And that kind of taps into the whole initial story with Amber. So now I'm like officially, I try not to have titles that I don't earn in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So when people were calling me Minister Inky, it was because I was an ordained minister, and so people call me Dr. Inky now. And I think some people, they wonder, like, is he a real doctor? I tell people I'm not a medical doctor or a surgical doctor, but I did go to the only state certified Black naturopathic school in America and get certified as a naturopathic doctor. You know what I'm saying? So there's that, you know what I'm saying? But at the time Amber's situation takes place, that's not even a thought in my mind. That's years and years down the line later. At this time, I'm just a panicked dad with a bunch of years of studying the body in my mind and a bunch of mythology, that is giving me the hope to say, my belief system is giving me hope to say yes when the doctors are saying no. They're saying, no, it's a wrap. Neck broken, spine broken, bones is crushed. She's not making it through the night. And I'm like, my belief system says that, this too shall pass. Like, we're gonna get through this. You know what I'm saying? And so I've been able to tap into that for a lot of different things. And almost everything has been accurate, where people have said, this is kind of crazy, but the story of Osiris is where, I get a lot of my inspiration to then go and collect scientific data, right? So even with diabetes, right? So the movement, the ministry is melanin versus diabetes, right? And it became melanin versus diabetes when I found out that, insulin wasn't the problem hormone, right? In your body, you have a hierarchy of hormones and neurotransmitters, and you have cascades of things and domino effects of, how your body works neurochemically and biochemically. And so upstream from glucagon and insulin is melanin concentrating hormone. And at the time when I first started talking about that, nobody even knew that was a real thing. People thought I was making that up. Like, that's not a real hormone. I'm like, we have Google. Like, you have a smartphone. There's no reason to say such dumb things with a smartphone in your pocket. Let's take that out, type that in, and just see what happens. So, but the story of Osiris or Asar or Wusia, right? The story of Asar is, the legend anyway, part of it is that he's the perfect black, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people don't understand that the Greeks got handed the keys to Kemet, right? And then the Romans kind of took Greece and took Kemet, you know, as a part of the Greek parcel, right? But they're taking science. That's what's the most valuable thing, is the intellectual property. So they're forgetting about the intellectual property transfer. And so when you look at the Latin term that we use today, it's still the perfect black. It's just people don't understand, you know. So melanin, you have three different basic types. You have neuromelanin, pheomelanin, and then eumelanin, right? Eumelanin is dark folks, you know, dark folks. Light skin to white skin, pheomelanin, dark folks to purple folks, eumelanin. And so you as a prefix means good, complete, or perfect. Melanin means dark or black. So the Latin term that we still use today in science, eumelanin, is the translation of the perfect black. So it's not like a different word. It's not like, so me understanding that, I got a whole different perspective. I'm like, no. A lot of today's science is Kemetic science. It's not built on, it's not added on, it's not, it's that. Like they just remixed, they just translated into their language and then represented it to the world. Like this is still that. So anyway, the perfect black, right? And then one of the things about the perfect black is that, you know, he had blood, right? His blood was wine, right? That was one of the myths, the mythos around the legend of Wuxia, is that his blood is made out of, you know, wine made from the ripest grapes and all of these kind of things. And so most people, that's just a romantic myth, right? But for me, I already had from family members and other people, you know, diabetes in my mind, right? Just, you know, just like, you know, as a problem for Black folks, but kind of like a mystery. And so for me, immediately in my mind, it clicked. I'm like, wait a minute. The perfect Black, do you know that they're saying that he got fermented fruit sugar? Is his blood, like his blood is fermented fruit sugar? They're like, no. They're saying wine. I'm like, oh, wine is fermented fruit sugar. Let me just help you guys out. So I'm seeing immediately the fact that they must have knew about diabetes back in the days. I'm like, no. This Osiris story this is bigger than what y'all think. Like they said his blood is made out of the perfect Black, got fermented fruit sugar in his blood. Like this is this is what we're dealing with right now. Like this is, you know, so you start to dig into it and then, you know, you get more details. You go like, okay, well, one of the differences between Black folks and white folks, so to speak, is we have more type 2B fast twitch muscle, right? You have three basic types of muscle tissue, right? You got slow twitch, then you have type 2, which is kind of like an intermediate fast twitch muscle, and then you have type 2B. Type 2B is white meat. You know, like you go to the supermarket or you go to a restaurant, you like red meat, white meat, right? When you're ordering red meat or white meat, or you're like, oh, I don't eat no more red meat, like what you're saying, you're talking about slow twitch muscle and fast twitch muscle. Red meat is slow twitch muscle. White meat is fast twitch muscle. The reason it's white is because fast twitch muscle doesn't have capillaries. It doesn't have blood supply. It doesn't produce energy the way slow twitch muscle does. Slow twitch muscle has lots of capillaries, lots of blood supply, right? It's constantly producing ATP from glucose. Fast twitch muscle doesn't do that. Fast twitch muscle, for all intents and purposes, basically uses a fermentation type of process to produce energy from sugar. So I'm like, wait a minute now, they might have been cooking back then, Kemet. They might have been on to something. Hold up. So, you check the papyri, and then come to find out, the first actual medical documentation of diabetes is in Kemet. I'm like, okay, now. So now we let me find out. Now we cooking, now we got some conversation to discuss. And then, just stuff like that just drew me into, really trying to uncover all of the details of this well-polished health system that kind of vanished overnight, with the whole Kemetic society. Like, people don't realize that Kemet and all of Kemet's people and all of Kemet's documentation vanished one night. Like, one night, everybody vanished. Kemet doesn't exist anymore. The happy river doesn't exist anymore. Like, all these people, none of them exist anymore. And then bam, now it's the Nile River, and there's Egypt, and there are Egyptians. Kemetic people are gone, and now there are Egyptians, and all of the better things, all of the things of lasting value that were there, those don't belong to the Kemetic people or the Egyptians. These things belong to make-believe people that they just invented. Like, oh no, Pythagoras, we have Pythagoras. We've got Plato and Socrates. And,
Hippocrates.
Right, and Hippocrates, right? And all of these folks that they kind of just like invented to be able to say, no, this is the chain of wisdom, and these guys, and so yeah, but I've been able to uncover a lot of different things, like the creation of the first microscope was in Kemet. So they were able to study, things at the microscopic level. You know what I'm saying? And that right there, that's a game changer. That's a game changer because, the whole concept, and I might be jumping around a little bit, but this the intro, give people an idea of what we kind of do. Kemet was a demonstrate kind of place, right? You demonstrated that you knew something by showing people that you could do the thing that you're saying, right? Because the Greco-Romans came in and they didn't really understand the science that they had. They basically invented theoretical science. They basically invented the idea that you could prove something by having a piece of paper with your name at the bottom and be like, no. We invented the 3, 4, 5 triangle. Look, we wrote it down right here. And folks is like, but do you see that building? Do you see that? That's okay. So that's a pyramid right there. And so, yeah, it's kind of like built into the framework right there. It's just like, you see how we use that as a rudimentary part. That's not even the flyest. Like, that's bait. Have you guys created anything with that? Can you show us one thing that you've built with this 3, 4, 5 ratio in the, like, can you show us any work with this? No, you have nothing to prove with it. You have nothing to show with this. So you don't really know this. You have this on paper. We got it. You grabbed it from somewhere. You're trying to figure it out. Until then, you want to have the credit for it. And whatever happens in the future, you're claiming the spoils of the, got it. We get it. Listen, people steal, people steal like, I'm from the Bronx. We know how to, we know what it is. You grab it, Back in the days, folks used to steal folks' bikes. And, we all live in the same neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, folks steal your bike. And then when you see them riding your bike, it's like, this my bike, right? Like, nah, this is my bike. And you gotta, oh, sorry about that. It's my bike. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they invented theoretical science. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, so when they convinced the world that having equations and things written down was how you demonstrate ownership of a science, it kind of put the people of Kemet, children of Kemet, people fond of Kemet, people Kemet enthusiasts, it put them at a disadvantage because most of the people trying to argue certain things, you're having the wrong argument.
Right.
So you're losing already because the way to win the argument is not designed for you to win the argument. You're having the straw man argument. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not it. What they did was they put the blueprint for, like, the microscope, for instance. They put the blueprint for the microscope in stone. That's number one.
Mm.
Then they accurately depicted the smallest cell in the human body. That's it.
To let them know, like, it works. That microscope we got right here, it works. We see it.
That's it. We're just gonna show you the smallest cell in the human body. So that way you'll know if we seen this one. Oh, we've seen them all. We've seen every single. If we seen this one, we seen them all because this is the smallest cell in the human body.
Right.
So, but that was the thing. It was demonstration. You know what I'm saying? We're going to demonstrate we know the science by showing you, something tangible. And so, I picked that, that.
And then what they operate on is theory. Like, well, explain it. And it's like, why I gotta explain when I just show you I synced it?
That's it. I can put I just showed you the blueprint to the program for the convex lens. It's right here. Then the crazy thing is they actually built, they was crazy. They actually built convex lenses. So they got like statues in Kemet of dignitaries and pharaohs, and they put actual microscope type lenses in the eyes. So when you look at them, it looks like they still alive, like the eyes following you, but the eyes are built to spec. So people stole the lenses, and those stolen lenses, people took those different places, different countries, and started to mess around with those and make, started to invent microscopes and things like that, you know what I'm saying, with the convex lens. Because once you get the convex lens, everything else is kind of simple from there, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, it's just a bunch, like even the goat's rue, right? Goat's rue is a plant that, was spread from North Africa, from African rue, right? So the plant is African rue, then it's spread throughout Asia and Europe. They called it goat's rue, right? But they plucked it, took that bad boy to the laboratory. Like, oh, is this what they were saying that they was using for the diabetes? Well, let's see how this thing works. Let's boo boo boo. Hey, package that bad boy up. The world's got metformin. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, if anybody thinks this sounds crazy, right? If anybody thinks this sounds crazy right now, what I'm saying, anything I'm saying, you can just look that up. Like if you're watching this, you're on a computer. So just look up metformin and goat's root, or depending on the website, they might say metformin. You might have to look up purple lilac, but it's the same plant, right? Sometimes a plant, depending on the country, it just has a different name, right? But this same plant, same plants.
And how do you spell that drug?
Metformin, Metformin.
There you go.
Yeah, metformin is the most popular diabetes drug on planet Earth.
And they formed that from the purple lilac, from the ghost root.
Yep. Now, here's the crazy thing. And so that's one of the other things that drove my curiosity. Like these are all just little things that drove my curiosity. That's, that's how we got, now I'm the most prolific Black health author in all of history. You know what I'm saying? Like I've written over 200 books. I got 100 books on Amazon on health and bioelectricity and all kinds of stuff. But these are the things that we're talking about, the things that made me curious to want to find out more information, that made me want to dig deeper. You know what I'm saying? Like the Ebers papyrus, like the Ebers papyrus is the most famous papyri, medical, quote unquote, medical papyri, even though calling it a medical papyri does it a disservice. Right? That's a part of the cultural appropriation. That's a part of the intellectual property theft, right? Because it's not a medical papyri. Medicine is something that was invented much later on, right? They didn't do medicine in Kemet. They did naturopathy. So it's really it's a naturopathy papyri, it's a holistic papyri, you know what I'm saying? But you have to call it the medical papyri, it's like, so all of these things got to be like, like taken with a grain of salt. But when you go through the medical papyri, they tell you, like if you get into some books on it and, they tell you, oh yeah, back in the days in Kemet, man, they had over 800, 900 different plants in their apothecary that they was, they was masters of herbalism. They had a bunch of plants, and when you start going through the papyri and you like looking for the plants, you don't really find any. It's like 20, it's like 10, 20 different plants. And you like, but wait a minute, you said they had 900. Like, where's the other plants? Like, where's all the herbs? No. I got you. They were the first ones with the surgery and this and that. I got you. I don't care about that. Where are the plants that they was using? Because I want to just grab some of them joints. Yeah, I want to see, they built the pyramids. What kind of herbs was it? I need to, them herbs done vanished. all traces and records, all traces and records of these plants is gone. You like, wait a minute. What happened to the 900? You telling me 900 medicinal plants has vanished? No, they haven't vanished. So that's one of the things that we had to do is get on our grind and start tracking down some of these plants. And then, come to find out, 90 to 95% of today's medication is actually plant extracts. Yeah. So the plants didn't disappear. They just turned into like metformin or aspirin or, sickle cell, sickle cell drug. You know what I'm saying? Like they just turned into these other, they turned and you got to act, you go, wait a minute. So how many plants we got in today's, like if we just go through the whole big pharma, like how many plants, it's weird how it seems like it's almost like the same amount of the ones that kind of like went missing. You wait a minute. So this is kind of interesting. The plants went missing and then turned up at your house. It's like kind of like the Christopher Columbus thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you like, wait a minute. So Christopher Columbus discovered America, but it was already like, it was like people that was here. Like when he discovered it, like people was already like here. Interesting. Like you start to see these running themes. Like, okay, so now y'all got the plant. And so while 90% of today's medicine is made from plant-based extracts, y'all are also running a campaign to tell people that herbs don't work. I'm from the Bronx, okay? And so that's like drug dealer 101, and not even like legal drug dealer. That's just like from the neighborhood. You like, yo, now we got that right here. They got garbage down the way. No. That's garbage down the way. No. Right here, we got that. This is like,
you want that gas? We got that gas. They ain't got no gas.
Man,
they got Reggie down the street.
Bruh. I'm like, yo, are you like, I'm like, so this is interesting. You know what I'm saying? So just, all of that kind of stuff.
So let's talk about high blood pressure. That's another one that Black people suffer from heavily amount.
So here's the thing with the high blood pressure, right? And it is a lot that we could probably talk about and we'll probably have a bunch of conversations about high blood pressure, but typically high blood pressure is like an offshoot of diabetes. It's like an offshoot of diabetes. So usually, so here's the thing. Diabetes is the master. Diabetes is a master killer. And the reason why I say a master killer is because I used to watch a lot of Chinese karate movies when I was young. I'm 47. So back in the days, Channel 5, all the Chinese movies. And so the best killers on these shows, like the master killers, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody else always got blamed for it. They was never around, And so nobody dies from diabetes. That's what makes diabetes a master killer. Like people with diabetes, they don't die from diabetes. They die from blood clots. They die from cancer. They die from heart attacks, congestive heart failure, like all of these other things. They don't die from diabetes. Diabetes doesn't necessarily, even, stroke, you know what I'm saying? Stroke, like something, the sugar, and not just the sugar per se, right? It's the glycation. It's the attachment of the sugar to the hemoglobin and the myoglobin and the other pigments. That's another part of the story. Like I found out that it's not just hemoglobin, right? Because A1C is like the main thing that people check with the diabetes. It's like, okay, we got to check our A1C levels. But what I found, so here's the craziest thing. I found that the biggest problem is that people lose their childhoodness, right? Because when we're children, we ask why, how, and what to everything. Once we get to adult stages, we kind of just like pretend we know what's going on, even though we don't have a clue what's going on. Like we just like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm like, bro, you don't know what I'm talking about. No.
You know what it is.
Explain it back to me. Like, just break it down. What does A1C mean? Well, no. And then people get offended, and that's how they block you from finding out. Like, they're not. I ain't gonna say dumb.
That's
but
that's what it is. It's a fear of being perceived as being uninformed. Children don't have that fear. They're inquisitive, so they don't. So people don't ask the question because they're like, maybe I should know this and I don't know it.
It's Hosea 4:6. The Bible. The Bible is man. The Bible is. The Bible's so accurate, sometimes it's scary. People don't even want to deal with that book, man. Hosea 4:6. My people are dying for lack of knowledge. And not because And the beauty with that is it's the second part of that. Because everybody knows that part. My people are dying for lack of knowledge. But the second part to that is they have a lack of knowledge because they rejected the knowledge. That's their problem. It's not that they're ignorant because they're not exposed or they don't have an opportunity. It's because when when the truth is sat in front of your nose, you slap it down. You're like, no, that's so. You ask most people, and I've done polls. I've done like how you see people doing videos on TikTok. I've went through the street and asked people, have you ever heard of melanin before? What does melanin mean? Have you ever heard of diabetes before? What does diabetes mean? People are like, oh yeah, I'm diabetic. I'm like, great. So what is diabetes? 100 different explanations. What's A1C? Oh, well, you got to check your A1C so you know how bad your sugar is. How bad your sugar is. Okay, well, what is that exactly? So when they do A1C, are they testing how high your blood sugar is? They're like, well, no, not exactly the blood sugar, but like, yeah, like how sick you is with the blood sugar. That's what I'm like, see that right there, that lack of information. That's why even when it comes to the vax, I'm like, I'm not pro or anti-vax. I'm informed decision making. People are making uninformed decisions. They just don't have a clue. Like, if I didn't have any information when the doctor said your daughter's gonna die tonight, I would have just had to ride that out. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you're the doctor, you're correct. So yeah, she's gonna die tonight. So we should probably just hug and do that thing. Like, but I had some other information. I was like, what time is it? Yeah, let's pack her up. Let's just get her. Yeah, let's get her somewhere else because he don't know what I know, but he got qualifications. I don't have any, but I still know. So A1C is a measure of glycation, and glycation is basically the browning process. Like when people make food and they brown the sugar so it bonds to the proteins. And so when I realized like this is the Maillard reaction, right? I'm like, wait a minute. Y'all are all watching chefs cooking shows and all. Y'all know what diabetes really is, but y'all don't know that y'all looking at diabetes when y'all looking at these chef shows. Y'all don't know this is the Maillard reaction. So I eventually write a book on it. Well, I got a whole bunch of books on it, but this one specific thing, just to give people some information on this one specific thing, the Dr. Enqi versus Dr. Sebi book, Electrochemistry Squared, right? But that blew my mind when I found out that this is the Maillard reaction, And so I realized, yes, the A1C test is checking the hemoglobin specifically because most of the problems arise in the circulatory system, but our bodies are full of pigments. Our bodies are full of proteins. Our bodies are full of different, hormones that have the same structure as hemoglobin. You got hemoglobin, myoglobin, cytoglobin, neuroglobin, melanin, pheomelanin, neuromelanin. Then you got a whole family full of opsins, melanopsin, rhodopsin, photopsin, like all of these are different types of pigments. And so I'm like, I'm on to something because every area in the body where you got different types of pigments, people that have diabetes have problems over there. So I'm like, I see. So anyway, go down this whole diabetes road, and then high blood pressure, right? So I get excited to start talking. But anyway, you asked me about the high blood pressure. So
this is great. This is great, Don, because you said it's downstream. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing with the high blood pressure is kind of similar, right? Like we blame sugar, diabetes.
Right.
High blood pressure is
salt.
Is the ops. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We blame salt for high blood pressure, right? But really, it's not salt, right? But it's bad information on top of uninformed stuff, on top of mistakes, on top of, and so we get this foundation of what we call science. And up in the base of the foundation, there's some mistakes and some stuff that's down there. So some of the stuff that's built up on top of it is built on good science and good scientific principles, but because it's sitting on faulty foundation, you know, a lot of stuff just has to change over time. You know what I'm saying? Problem is when you're sick, you don't really have time. Time's the one thing you don't have, right? So the salt thing is not the problem, right? But you got to figure out what's going on with the salt. And so you got to track salt down, like, okay, well, what does salt do? Then you wind up, you thinking heart and blood, you know, high blood pressure. So you heart and blood. But then when you start looking at salt, you're like, wait a minute, salt taking me over here with kidneys. And then you find out, you start looking at some statistics and you're like, wait a minute, Black folks seem to be dying more than anybody from type 2 diabetes, and then also heart disease, and then also high blood pressure, and then also kidney. I wonder if
something in common.
So you find out that insulin levels, right? High insulin kind of bleeds into high aldosterone. So then you like, but then people have high blood pressure for 10, 20 years, and you say aldosterone, and they go,
what is that?
What's aldosterone? And then I go, that's your sickness. That's your problem right there. How you got high blood pressure for 15, 20 years. Your mama had high blood pressure. Your daddy had high blood pressure. Your grandparents had high blood pressure. You don't know what aldosterone is. That's the problem right there. You know what's happening with Drake. You know what's happening with Kendrick. You know what's going on with Trump. You know what kind of outfit, you know, Rihanna had on. And you taking these medicine, these pills and all that, and you don't know what that how you ain't spend 20 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, you ain't spend no time on trying to figure out. And like, well, no, they told me to just, you know, watch my salt and take my medicine. So, you know, I just been cutting out salt and, you know, watching my medicine. I'm like, yeah, but okay. So how long you ain't been having no salt in your diet? Oh, what I listen to the doctors. I don't know. I don't have no salt. Like I cut salt. I don't even have salt in my house. I haven't had salt in. I'm like, so how's your digestion? Oh yeah, no, my digestion is terrible. I have to take stuff for my digestion because, you know, it's like I got that acid reflux and, you know, I don't know, I get heartburn and I'm like, no, you don't have none of that. The problem is you don't have any salt in your food. So what's happening is because you stop eating salt, now you having problems with your stomach acid. Then you probably watching goofballs on the internet telling you to eat alkaline stuff. So now on top of you not having enough acid, you're adding alkaline. So your stomach is not able to break your stuff down. And you're buying, you know, $15 smoothies and herb packages for $2,000 and all that, and you can't even digest anything. So you it don't even matter what you. I was like, when you eat food, do you see it in the toilet? Yeah, you know, sometimes like if I eat some beans or some greens or something, you know, I will see the bean. I said, you're not supposed to see that stuff in the toilet. So that means that it made it from your mouth all the way to the toilet the same way you put it in. That's your body was supposed to break that down. It wasn't even supposed to escape the duodenum without being, you know, mash. Like it was supposed to be, yeah. So you not only have a stomach issue, but then your whole digestive tract seems to be, because you were supposed to have some bacteria to create some farts, some gas. Oh, no. I take this for the gas. No, I gets rid of that. You know, wait a minute. What are you doing? You ain't supposed to be. Gas means that your bacteria inside your digestive system is breaking down all of the stuff that your stomach was supposed to break down, but it didn't break it down. So now your bacteria is like that's like letting you know, like, hey, you didn't do your job, so now I'm gonna do your job for you. So now what you did is because your stomach and all that wasn't working, you went ahead and wiped out your bacteria. So now your whole digestive system, like a crazy straw, it just stuff just shooting right on through there. You know what I'm saying? So
damn,
people got to learn. That over time I learned that the information was the most important thing that people needed to have.
right.
You could sell people a herb, you could sell people a medicine, you could even do a surgery on somebody. But unless they understand how their body's supposed, like health, most overused, misunderstood term. Like people, if you ask 100 people what health means, they give you 100 different answers. Health means how well your body functions, and not just as a whole, but each individual thing, right? So I can measure, my finger health by how well my finger can finger. Like fingers do this, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, if my finger can do this pretty good and pain-free, then yeah, this finger is healthy. Like and so that's how all your body works, and so you measure your body's health by how well each piece works. So if you're eating, and say for instance, we can start here, right? You have enzymes in your mouth that break down carbohydrates, right? So that's how you can end all debates about what you're supposed to be eating, and no, we're supposed to eat meat only, and blah, blah, blah. Stop. You have enzymes in your mouth for carbohydrates. So that's off the table. Now, whether we're supposed to eat carbs and this, or carbs and that, or omnivore, all of those conversations are open. But to say that we're not supposed to eat carbohydrates means you don't know how to. I be looking at some of these guys. Oh, I'm a 12-year medical doctor, and I found out the secret is that our body has no requirement for carbohydrates. I'm like, interesting, because carbohydrate enzymes, like we have those immediately. As soon as we start chewing, like we carbohydrate enzymes. So the body is designed to break down carbohydrates. But if that's not happening and you're not getting the digestion immediately, like you're supposed to have digestion happening immediately, right? That's loss of function. Loss of function means you're not healthy, right? Your pancreas, right? 2 organs in one, or 2 glands in one, right? It's a digestive gland, and it's an insulin and GABA gland, right? So it has exocrine function and endocrine function in one. So that's what makes the pancreas like so crucial, right? So it plays a role in digestion, like the macro and the micro of digestion. So when you first eat, the pancreas, one side of the pancreas like Two-Face. When you eat, the pancreas is there on the macro scale to break the food down and realkalize it. Like once the stomach acid turns everything to acid, the pancreas puts digestive juices on it to realkalize everything, right? And then once it goes down through the system and through the portal vein into the blood, then obviously the pancreas creates insulin to get the rest of the metabolism to happen inside the muscle tissue, right? So the pancreas is digestion on the macro scale, digestion on the micro scale, as above, so below, right? But, the main problem though, with the high blood pressure, I find out is miscommunication, right? It's miscommunication. This is why I was saying the science has faulty parts. So the faulty part in reference to this is that individual cells don't have intelligence.
Okay.
So we're just learning, like the Department of Defense within the last 15 years allocated like X amount of hundreds of millions to studying cellular intelligence and magnetism in cells and just a whole nother, like all of the stuff in the holistic space we've been talking about since before there was a Dr. Sebi, before there was a Robert Becker or Arnold Ehret, like just the stuff in the, all of the crazy stuff since Anton Mesmer and like just, the Department of Defense, not National Institute of Health, not National Library, Department of Defense, because this is that priority. You know what I'm saying? Like
DOD.
Yeah. A part of the AI race is human intelligence, because it's human intelligence that has to be mimicked to create the supercomputer. So they're trying to really narrow down the essence of the human mind. They're realizing it's not the brain and the mind, two different. So anyway, the miscommunication, right? And so you kind of got to be cross-disciplinary, you know what I'm saying, to really figure this thing out. So in the workout space, right? In the workout space, trainers, bodybuilders, athletes, we all know that when you exercise, you have like way more blood flow. Like that's just a basic, you get way more blood flow. And that's never a problem. In fact, when you have some of these issues like diabetes, high blood pressure, etc., doctors even tell their patients, like, no, it'd be good for you to exercise. Like, exercise will help you out. Now, the problem is over here, right? You say high blood pressure, and you're like, well, what exactly is high blood pressure? Well, that's the pressure that's exerted on the walls of the vessels for the, and the heart has to work hard. And I'm like, wait a minute. But when I exercise, and
I'm increasing the pressure.
So how is it okay over there, but it's not okay? And so you got to get into your bag. You got to figure out some stuff what's going on. And then you got to go, okay, now wait a minute. So we got the arteries. Okay, boo, boo, boo. You got the aorta, and then basically everything else is just branches off the aorta. Okay. So now we're talking about smooth muscle tissue. And okay, so when we exercise, the vessels open up, and then we get that's the problem. High blood pressure, we're not having necessarily a problem with the blood. The problem is the communication that's supposed to happen with the tissues. So when you got a strong blood flow, your vessels, arteries, veins, capillaries, they open up. Vasodilation, they open up however much they need to open up so the blood can flow through flawlessly. When you have times that, vasoconstriction, this is controlled by the smooth muscles that line the vessels and the nerves, going back to the spine, jet pillar, So the problem is when you're supposed to have vasodilation, you got vasoconstriction. When you're supposed to have vasoconstriction, you got the problem is the communication. Your vessel's not opening and closing in a timely fashion, right? So that's one part of the problem. And then you got a calcium problem, right? You got a calcium problem that just till recently they couldn't figure out, because the bones are supposed to be like kind of like just dead, like so when you learn about bones,
it's just a skeleton. It just holds the
holds you up.
That's what I was taught.
Right. And that couldn't be furthest from the truth. The bones is everything. The bones is everything. Like everything. Your bones is the most important. Your bones is all of your new blood cells come from out of your bone marrow. All of your immune cells, the B cell, the T cell, all that's coming out of your bone marrow. Your bones have to produce like literally millions of blood cells per second. So now you got to figure this part into the equation, right? Because then that's a new piece of information. And then come to find out, the bones are like a gland, because the bones have proteins, instructory proteins that they release, right? There's a whole family of them. They're called bone morphogenic proteins, right? They're like basically like a cross between cytokines and hormones that the bones release. They do stuff, right? They tell other stuff to do stuff, right? And so you have BMP2, right? And BMP2, bone morphogenic protein number 2, right? They don't really have fancy names for them. It's just like 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 2 is the one that kind of like makes more bones. Like that's the job of this protein specifically. And the way that bones make more bones is it releases this protein, and this protein is like fertilizer. It directs where calcium should go, and it starts to, wherever it goes, like Medusa, like it turns to stone. So, when we don't have our circulatory system in check, we start to getting this secretion, high levels of BMP, right? Because your body does use calcium to try to fortify the vessels, but the BMP will get out of control, and then you'll get hardening all over the arteries. So now the arteries get stiff and they can't contract and dilate because they got a cast, they got like plaster, right?
Right.
So you got the calcium issue, and then you got the miscommunication issue. And so, salt is not necessarily the bad guy, just like sugar is not the bad guy with diabetes. It's a lot of upstream chemistry.
So why do they
aldosterone?
So why do they associate sugar with diabetes and salt with high blood pressure?
Well, low hanging fruit. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention if your blood
so is it basically how I'm understanding this is you got a domino, right? And the problem is downstream.
It can kill you. Wait. It can kill you. Just to simplify it. If you have high blood pressure and you have a salty plate of food, that salt on that plate of food can kill you. If you have high blood sugar and you eat, a nice big chunky slice of cake, or, you have some sugar, it can kill you.
Right. So, but what I'm saying, what I think is happening here is the problem's down. It's actually upstream, but the salt is like hitting the first domino.
That's a fact. That's
what's created.
But the problem is you're already out of dominoes. You at the last domino. So by the time you had that, that salty sandwich or whatever that was you had,
that was the
linchpin that just pulled out the grenade, and then boom. And so because people start presenting that way, doctors kind of work backwards. They work from the problem all the way back to the root. And a lot of times they find a way to help the symptom way before they find the root. And helping the symptom is where the money is at.
Right.
So once they find a way to help the symptom, they never worry about the root. They just move on to the next symptom. And they find a way to address that symptom. And you got just a whole bunch of roots. And so now they have a culture where they're starting to get this whole vibe where, like, one day I went to the supermarket and I saw a magazine and it blew my mind. The name of the magazine was Living with Diabetes. And I was like, so they have sold people on the idea that you should just acquiesce, walk into the light. Like, no, you're not supposed to be trying to live with anything. I don't care how vicious the disease is. You're supposed to fight until they put you in the coffin. You're supposed to be trying to fight that thing, like, period. You could have a tumor growing off your forehead. Like, you're supposed to be fighting that thing with every resource you have plant, knife, pill. You supposed to be fighting that thing until death. You never supposed to acquiesce. Period. That is a fundamental aspect of all life. Life.
Right.
That's the fundamental. Life is the fundamental aspect of life. Like, you're supposed to fight for that.
Right.
The moment they get you to live with your death, to live with your death sentence, it's crazy, because the same people that tell you that God is not a real thing, right? Because if God was real, then da 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 da, and there's no such thing as preordained, we're just out here, blah, blah, blah. Well, if everything is up to chance and there's no order and structure to the universe, when you tell me that I got 3 weeks to live, why would I go along with that? Like, what? Why would I go along with that if you're telling me there's no order to the universe? There's no order to the universe. I could easily survive 4 weeks, or maybe 4 months, or 4 years. Like, who knows, right? Like, why would I just take that? So, yeah, it just blew my mind to see that there was a magazine of people that were like,
live with it.
Yeah. And, like, the whole idea of, ignorantly, addressing the body, like a bunch of people that just take a bunch of medicines, or even people take herbs. It's no different in the herbal space. You know what I'm saying? People think that they're clever because they take herbs instead of pills. But if you're taking herbs and you don't know why you're taking them or what you're taking them for, or what, like, it's the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same. It's just, you're giving your money away to somebody on the internet versus a doctor, but it's the same thing, especially if they don't really they're just managing symptoms as well. Like, they're not really, educating you so you can figure out how to turn the tables on this thing at some point. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Or use yourself as a blueprint so that maybe your daughter or your son don't have to go down the same road. Like, we're not supposed to be acquiescing to illness. Like, that's insane. That in of itself is insane.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We'll fight relationships. We'll fight a job. You know what I'm saying? But we won't fight for our life. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
To me, it's just crazy. So just finding some of these little crazy things, and just, like, cholesterol, figuring out some stuff with cholesterol when it comes to blood pressure.
You're giving away too much now. We about to round out the show. We can't give it all to y'all in one bunch. I'm a businessman. This nigga does science. I do business, okay?
Hotep, you're a genius.
I got 200 books that I wrote. Trust me. We can afford to mention cholesterol.
We got 8 minutes left here. Okay, so make sure y'all subscribe to the Kick. We're not bringing this back to YouTube no more. Okay?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
this is it. Catch us on Kick. It's pinned right there in the YouTube chat. Come follow the channel every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. And then what would be dope if we could create like a way where maybe people could send in questions throughout the week.
Okay.
And then we go into, like, maybe by, like, make a cutoff. Like, if I don't get your question by Sunday, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? But
questions delivered through the Griff Report.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
If you watch the Griff Report, any questions outside the Griff Report are not eligible. We will only provide them through the Griff Report. So Griff Report people just say, Hotep Jesus, I got a question for Enqi. I'll write it down and we'll cover it. If you don't watch the Griff Report, fuck your question. I hope you die.
So there's that. that was.
Okay, that's how we do that. That's how we do a Hotepistan, nigga. I don't give a fuck. I hope you catch a heart fucking murmur or some shit. Pass the fuck out and kill the fuck over because you ain't sending your question in through the Griff Report. Fuck you, nigga. Fuck you and your high blood pressure. I'm sorry. Cholesterol, my bad. I'm sorry. I got a vaccine injury that gives me, like, I got these Tourette reactions. So,
All right. Well, I was just gonna say with cholesterol, I find out that because primarily Black folks have the high cholesterol thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so scratch a lie, find a thief. I find out that we don't have a high cholesterol thing.
Damn.
We have a not living in the right place kind of thing, right? So because we come from the equator, right? Your family at some point came from the equator if you're dark, like that's kind of how that goes, right? And so because initially your bloodline, your family, you got so much sunlight, right? Your body was converting cholesterol at a very high rate, right? Because that's what cholesterol is there for. Cholesterol is not just a thing. Cholesterol, the sun catalyzes your body to convert cholesterol into a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's vitamin D, right? Cholesterol is vitamin D. It's pre-vitamin D, right? So even if you, like, for instance, if you're taking a medicine, like a statin drug that stops your body from producing cholesterol, and then you go out into the sunlight and be like, oh yeah, I'm about to get this vitamin D. Well, that's not possible for you. If you're taking something that stops your body from producing cholesterol, you can never produce vitamin D naturally. So you have to take vitamin D pills for the rest of your life. You'll never have enough vitamin D. Yeah, that's because your body makes vitamin D out of cholesterol. The UVB molecularly rearranges cholesterol and sends that through the bloodstream, and then the kidney makes a version of vitamin D, and then the liver makes a different version of vitamin D. And so it starts for cholesterol, and testosterone and all kinds of other things are produced from cholesterol. So this is why, like, side effects from statin drugs include bone issues, and you can't, your libido is gone, you can't perform, you got to get Cialis or Viagra, and then you have to replace all of the things that your body would make out of cholesterol, right? So the problem is not the cholesterol. The problem is we're not converting the cholesterol fast enough. Because we're put on, we're in a relationship with our environment, but our human arrogance allows us to believe that we're not in a relationship with our environment, that we're kind of just doing our own thing. You know what I'm saying? But that's not how it goes. So because we're from the equator, there's a certain amount of sun you're supposed to be getting. If you're getting that every day, your body will be converting that cholesterol. But we're no longer getting the sun. And then we're also developed a taste for a whole bunch of cholesterol contributing foods. So now we're not even converting the cholesterol our liver produces, and then we're adding more cholesterol in. And that's where the problem comes in with the cholesterol. But we're running short on all the things that cholesterol. So it's not just cholesterol, because it's like, okay, well, cholesterol contributing to high blood pressure. Cool. But if you have the cholesterol issue, you got to go beyond that with the biochemistry. It's like, okay, well, I'm building up cholesterol, which means my body's not converting cholesterol. So that means I have a vitamin D issue. That means I have a testosterone issue. And, ladies are like, oh yeah, well, what about, we don't care about testosterone issue. That's why you have a fibroid issue, because see, low testosterone for ladies causes fibroids. You're supposed to have testosterone, and we all have testosterone and estrogen, men and women. We have testosterone and we have estrogen. Different ratios, but we both. And so when you can't make testosterone, you get fibroids. We can't make testosterone. Our minds get foggy.
We get all host of a bunch of shit. We turn into Kanye and shit out here with his cousin. Yeah, it's crazy.
flag on the play. Necessary roughness.
No Yeezy, no Yeezy.
Yeah, that's a 15-yard penalty right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we got for tonight. We gonna see y'all next week. Hit the follow button. If you're over on YouTube, hit the kick button. Hit the kick button, kick.com/Good Report. We just giving you a taste this week. Just a little taste, all right? I know y'all don't appreciate this shit. That's why we keep it exclusive to the people who appreciate it. And those are the people that come to Kick and hold us down on Kick, kick.com/The Good Report. Make sure y'all follow Dr. Enqi, American Healer, on YouTube. He be going in. He got his own classes. You can go in there. He's got over 350,000 books on Amazon. Y'all can glue into, okay? All the sciences is there, all right? Y'all niggas never got to start for nothing over here, all right? Enqi, man, great job, man. I'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
HJ, you the GOAT.
Nah, you is, man. I'm just here because of you, man. I'm here because of you. Peace.
That's the nerves talking to the blood vessels.
2, 1, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Yeah.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, "What do you think you are? Some kind of Hotep Jesus?"
Ooh,
And I
that's
was
good.
just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus.